Good evening, everyone. I am Victoria Nicole. I am the founder of the Confessions of a Lady, a nonprofit organization where we speak out against domestic violence and abuse, concentrating in girls ages 7 and up who have been molested and or raped. I am also the host of this here, the Confessional Room, where we get women together to speak out about their situations, domestic violence, molestation, and rape. So on today, we will have Miss Belize. She and I met... we actually never met until a current project that I am still working on that hopefully will be released soon. And she traveled down from Atlanta, Georgia to support me with it. She also is a strong advocate for herpes within the African American community. She is just an all-around awesome person, and I am so grateful and thankful that she has agreed to share some of her testimony with us here in the confessional room. So as you guys always know, I'm having the worst difficulties. There she is! I am having the worst difficulties with my internet and getting people to join in. So if you guys will please bear with me, I am trying. It's only, last time it took me 20 minutes. This time it's taking me 13 because I do see here where she's liking. So I am just waiting for her to say yes. Okay, I think this is approved. So it says she's adding.
Hey, we are here. We are here. So
here.
my phone was like, it wasn't you this time, okay? So feel good. That wasn't you, okay? That was me. Come on now with the hair. My phone told me to update. I had to update, so that's what I was doing.
Okay, so make sure that you share it out. I'm trying to share it out to my personal page as well.
I'll do a watch party.
I think this is it. So let's do that first. Okay. Hopefully I shared the right one because I've deleted like 3 of these. Are you frozen? Belize. Lord. We're gonna wait. Frozen. She's gone away, you guys. Ain't nobody mad but the devil. It says great. I may have to find a third party in order to host these on my nights because it's like it's always giving me trouble. Belize, are you still there? Bring Belize to the camera. Add. Okay. Are you back?
I don't know what happened.
I don't know either. I went to share the video out and you were no longer there. Okay.
Oh, I did a watch party, so that may kicked me out. That may have been the case.
I don't even know what a watch party is.
Oh, it's okay. So a watch party is basically when you're on and other people on your page can see what you're watching. So that's the good part. Yeah.
Okay. So basically, I share it out from the confession room and then I share it onto my personal page and they can do a watch party instead of actually joining in. Girl, this is just
correct though. And then they can talk among each other. I like that because they know each other so they can talk about what they see. I know. It's fancy.
Okay. Okay, and so I was just introducing everybody to you. Everybody who's joining on, thank you so much for joining on. And then those who will catch the replay, please type replay so that we know, if someone else is watching and may not be able to catch the live. So Belize and I actually just met 2-3 months ago. I had been following her and she had been following me, and I released something in regards to domestic violence, molestation, and rape. And she decided to come on and join me in this project that is going to be released, doggone it. It's going to be released soon.
It's coming.
Soon and soon. And so she actually shared some of her testimony within this, upcoming release of a project. And so, Belize, I just want to thank you so much because, as you know, in your walk and in your testimony with herpes and all of that, some people don't want to talk about their personal business. And I was just sharing with someone yesterday, and I was telling them it's the difference between being afraid and private. And I think some people use
Say that again.
I think some people use the excuse of, I'm just a private person, as an excuse not to share their testimony because they still live in bondage or still live in fear. They still may be feeling like it's their fault. But in the confessional room, everything and anything goes, and we're not here to try to beat anybody else down. We're not here to try to make anybody else feel less than. We're just merely here in existing so that other people know the things that we have gone through. It happened. I live by the 3 A's: acknowledge your past, accept that you can't change it, and affirm yourself that you are deserving of a better and brighter future. So with that being said, there's not anything that I can do. What happened at me at the age of 7, 14, 15, 14, 17, 27, and the list goes on. There's nothing that we can do about yesterday. We can pray for today in hopes of tomorrow coming. But until that, comes to fruition, we're just merely existing in hopes of trying to help somebody else. So if you would, you share some of your story with me, and as much as you're comfortable with, I'm a pry and dig for more, but
I wasn't scared last time. I ain't scared this time. Well, I ain't private.
So let's not go through all the preliminaries. So let's not go through all the preliminaries of when did it happen. So just began to share with others. From what I gather, and correct me if I'm wrong, your molestation was kind of like me. It happened with a female, and so I love. I don't want to say love, but I like the fact that, because when I share my story, and I'm like, look, I was 7 years old with a female relative. People always go, huh? And I'm like, yeah, it was with a female relative. And so when you shared your story, when you and I got
together, you lying.
I know you lying. And so when you said that at the on the set, I was like, say one more time, bring that back.
And it was another lady on there who had the same situation. So I was like, that opened a whole door in itself for you to even say something, made us realize, like, okay, we're not crazy. That really did happen. That really did happen.
It really does happen. Let's not say did, but does happen. So if you would share with the people of kind of what your story was as a child, how old were you, how many times it happened, and how did it happen, of what you can recall.
Okay, so my situation is different. So it wasn't with a family member. It was with a best friend. That's the crazy part. We were the same age. So I don't even know if you want to call it molestation, do you? I would say it kind of, yeah. But at the end of the day, she was a close friend. We went to elementary school together. And I know most people's like, well, stuff don't happen with your friends. Sadly to say, your friends introduce you to a whole lot of stuff they shouldn't introduce you to. I won't knock her. I love her still to this day. I ran into her like a month or so ago, and I spoke to her. I'm not mad at her because I knew her history. I knew her family history. I knew the trauma she had been through. I knew the trauma that her mom been through. So my whole thing was like, that's my friend, I'm not mad. So one night I went and spent the night at her house like everybody do. Like, Mama, can I stay? You excited, like, oh, can I stay at my friend's house? All this stuff like that. So I was super stoked because my mom let me stay at her house. So I went to her house, whatever. What little girls do? We playing, talking, playing with toys, doing all this stuff like that. Her mom went to bed. So we ended up going to bed. While we was going to bed, she was like, oh, have you ever did whatever? I was like, did what? I'm young, so I'm looking like, at this point, I was in 5th grade, I believe. Yeah, 5th grade. Yeah, it was 5th grade.
So 9 or 10.
Yeah, so I was at that point. But at this point, I had already been dealing with the stuff with my cousin. So I wasn't too naive to it because I had dealt with molestation with a cousin. So I was like, I was aware, but not from a female. So that's what threw me, because I was like, I got that from a boy. I'm kind of, by then, I have kind of internalized that's what boys do. Like we always say, oh, that's what boys do. They curious, they fine, don't make no big deal of it, whatever. So at that point, I just didn't think nothing of it. But from a friend was kind of like crazy because she was like, oh, let me show you something. So she performed oral sex on me. And on top of that, I was like, no. She was like, no, you fine. Just let me do it. I was like, no. So at this point, I'm kind of like, I don't want to do this type thing. And she was like, no, and all this stuff like that. So that was my first time even with a female. So that opened a huge door. I don't know if I know you're spiritual, but it opened this whole world of, do I like boys or do I like girls? It messed my head up. It messed me up so bad because I was like, well, I'm not, I know I'm not. What am I? Like I was so confused for so long at that point, and it went on for some time because she's my friend. I was like, "That's my friend. She didn't mean it." We try to internalize it, like, "Oh, she didn't mean it. She was just trying to show me something that happened to her, or whatever, whatever, whatever." So it went on for some time. They went on for some time, and many of you be like, "Well, you should have known better." I was freaking 10. I
And
was
how old
10.
was she?
We were the same age.
Okay.
We were the same age. So at this point I knew it wasn't right, but I was like, but she's my friend though. Like, this is my homie. Like, we roll, we hang out and all this stuff like that. But I just stopped going over there as much. I was like, my mom was like, you going over there? Mm-mm. She was like, wow. Mm-mm. I'm good. Like, I'm good at this point. Um, but it was life changing at that time because I was looking like, girls don't do this to girls. You know what I mean? That's what I believed in my mind. Like, girls don't do this to girls. And after being in a situation like that prior, it just messed me all up. It messed me up. I had a guy do it who was a cousin, and then I had a best friend do it. So it was like, okay, who can I trust at this given moment? Because these are people that I trust and people I love and I care about because that was my favorite cousin and she was like my one of my best friends at that given moment. So it just took me for a toll. It ended up giving back to the school because I guess she told somebody and I literally about to fight everybody like, you gay? Then I said, oh no, hold on, wait a minute. Like, wait 1 second, that's not the story. And I found out another friend had went over there, another girl, and it happened to her too. And I wonder why. I was like, why she stopped being friends with her? She's like, girl, I don't, And I learned after that happened to me that that's what she was doing. So it was interesting. Going through all the way through high school, through college, it was just like this ongoing tear. Um, I wasn't with girls anymore after that, but it was just that, what do I like? Or is it because I like it, or is it because it was forced on to me? Which I'm not telling anybody, anything like that. So it's not like I got counseling or my mom knew anything like that. So I just had that my inside my mind tear, majority of my life. So
Why didn't you tell your mom or tell anybody?
fear. That's just it. It's just more fear than anything. I was like, what is she gonna say? Is she gonna think it's my fault? Things like that. I just didn't tell it. I just like, I'm gonna take this to the grave. I'm taking it to the grave, which clearly it's not going to the grave. I'm alive now, but but that's how I felt. I was like, I'm gonna take this to the grave because I don't want nobody to think that, that all thing you just know better. But I was like, I was a child, like,
Yeah.
and they always tell you don't tell nobody, and you like, I ain't gonna tell on my friend. They gonna snitch on my friend. You crazy. That's loyalty. You don't snitch, type
Right.
thing. Or you snitch, you're a bad person if you snitch. So I was like, no, I'm not gonna tell. I don't want to get her in trouble, and I surely don't want to get in trouble. So I never said
Right.
anything.
So you begin to deal with all this fear and regret, and so this happened. If I'm hearing you correctly, this happened at 10, but this was not the first incident. It happened from a cousin. So I understand the whole loyalty with your friend, but what about why didn't you tell when it came to your cousin?
That was my favorite cousin. Once again, I'm loyal. Like I just me.
But you're
Like,
but you're 10. You don't even know what loyalty is.
but that's what my whole thing is. As much as we don't think we know what stuff is, but when you're close to somebody, you don't ever want to get anybody in trouble. That's the main thing we hear our little kids do. You got a little girl, I have two little boys. They always like, I don't want to tell my friend, I don't want to get my friend in trouble. You never just want to get anybody in trouble. So at that moment, it's just like, I don't want to get them in trouble because to me, I was like, they didn't mean it, type thing. And I didn't want to get them in trouble. I didn't want anybody to get in trouble.
So you walked around with all this baggage from 10 to now you're in your 30s and you're finally talking about it and you have this whole movement and all of that. So how did that
Mm-hmm.
affect you in your relationships with your mom, with her not knowing, and just in relationships, period? How did it affect you? Or did it
Well, me
affect
and my
you?
mom, it never really did affect me and my mom. She didn't know. But I learned after talking to my grandmother that molestation was heavy in my family, period. After talking to my grandmother. So I was like, oh, generational curses, I see. So I was like, okay, this makes more sense. So my grandma is the one I told. I recently just told my grandma. So she was like, I was like, how you feel, grandma? She said, no shock. Literally.
So, but see, this is my
That's the
thing.
thing.
This is my thing. Unfortunately, we 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 like to hold on to all these secrets, thinking as if these walls are not going to talk, thinking as if our behaviors are not going to seep out, thinking as if we don't talk about Uncle Joe, Uncle Tommy, cousin Bertha, we don't talk about these things that it doesn't exist. But we know that's a bold-faced lie. What tends to happen is you cover up this dirt with this excuse, and you cover up this dirt, and so what happens is we have this big old mountain of lies, deception, deceit underneath our rug in our home, and it's spilling out. We can't understand why we can't progress. We can't understand why we can't get further in life. We can't understand why
Right.
these things keep happening after generation. It's because no one took the time to take all that crap underneath that rug and just expose it for what it is. Like, why not just, like, I'm really trying to
I still
rationalize.
don't get that either.
I get
My,
it. I get
it's
it, but I don't.
irritating though, like because when I was talking to my grandmother about all of that stuff, it bothered me because it happened with my granddaddy. My granddaddy did it to his own daughter. So this was just this is rooted, and I was like, this is bad because at the end of the day, who it happened from was my uncle, his son. This is stuff you learned, you
No, wait a
heard,
minute.
you was raised
So
by.
your grandfather did it
Mhm.
to his daughter, and your mother knew about it, but then covered it
My
up.
mom was a child. No, she didn't. My mom was a little girl when it happened, but she learned when she got older that was happened, and my aunt ended up killing herself later because of all of that because he was raping her and she got pregnant.
Did she have the baby?
Who knows? We don't know what that child is. I think the child is in the family. Who knows that? Who knows? That's that. Like you said, sweeping stuff under the rug and nobody know.
And so your grandfather molested his daughter, which
Yep.
had a child that no one knows about in your family, which then turns around and the your auntie killed herself because of it. Then your uncle, your mother's brother,
Son.
son molested you. So y'all just going around bringing around the rosy, unfortunately, because nobody wants to talk about him. Like, okay, so do you feel had your grandmother exposed your grandfather about it, that maybe it wouldn't happen to you?
I can't say that. I'm not even quite sure because I even asked my grandmother that, but the thing about she didn't know what was going on until she got pregnant. That's when she found out. Okay. By that time, my grandma was getting her butt tore out the frame by him. Fear. He was abusive. He was an alcoholic. He was not a nice person. Not. So I even talked to my grandma about it. I said, well, grandma, what would you have done? She said, really nothing. Because she
Because
was
she was living
completely
in fear
scared of him.
herself. Because she was
And I think
fearful.
sometimes people don't realize, sometimes they can't because of the situation. I have learned that most men who kind of do that, well, I say adults, they tend to really abusive men. It ain't just the child that's getting the hand of the stick. Sometimes the woman is getting the hand of the stick too. And what can she say? I'll say leave. My grandma did end up leaving when my mother got older. Um, but he ended up taking her brothers, taking my uncles from my grandmother, which caused a whole nother. He tried to make it seem like she was a monster and all of this other stuff. It was crazy.
So tell me, how did it affect your relationship being molested and keeping these secrets for so long? How did it affect your relationship with men and women as you got older?
I didn't have any. Like literally, I had good girlfriends, but relationships with men, slim. Like I barely got into relationships. I had sex, but relationships was slim. I've been married. Clearly, I'm not married anymore, but it revealed so much of my own problems and things that I thought was like, oh, I'm good, not good. And you don't realize you're not good until you got a commitment and you realize that, oh God, stuff is, I'm not, things are just not clicking, or things are not just flowing like I wanted to. And I was like, why? And all that stuff started to bubble up. And I was like, oh, this makes a whole lot more sense now. But because I never dealt with it. Never dealt with it.
So
I
would
kind
you
of just
say
act
that?
like it didn't exist.
So would you say that it brought on insecurities within yourself, or were you just in fear that they would find out about about what happened to you as a child?
Um, I won't say that. I think I end up telling my ex-husband. I think he knew. He knew. But it just made insecurities for him when it came to women being around, because he had a friend who wife left him for a woman. So his fear was, oh God, that happened to her. What if she leaves me for a woman?
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, just because it happened to me, which could happen to the other woman, it created this fear within him and made me, he felt insecure about me being around women, which I was not doing that with any of my friends, but that was a fear that was created. So I was like, it still crept into my marriage,
Because you
even
hadn't
when I
dealt.
thought it wouldn't. He was scared, which I didn't even know. I learned that later. He was like, well, I had a friend. I was like, well, have that ever happened to you? He was like, no. I said, are you telling the truth? Did it ever happen to you? Which I will never know, but that was one of his biggest fears, that that would happen. I'm looking like, no, I'm not going to do that. I'll probably leave for a man before I leave you for a female. But that was one of his fears, which I never understood why, because once again, people don't tell everything. You can be scared of something, have an insecurity, and some people just don't want to tell you the root. If he told me the root, then I was like, oh, okay, makes sense. But I never really understood the root to that. Never.
And that's so odd that he would think, but you know what? It isn't odd, because I've dated men who would say, well, since you were molested and since you, because, as I was molested by my aunt or whatever, a female relative
Mm-hmm.
aunt, and it did bring on, I did waver between, like, do I like women? Do I like
Yep.
men? Do I like
Yep.
women? Do I like men?
Yep.
Let me go and experiment with this female to see if I really like this, or
Mm-hmm.
no. But see, subconsciously, I knew, well, consciously, I knew that being with a woman wasn't right, but it was still like I enjoyed it. I'm not going to sit here in front on social media, front on live, and not say I didn't enjoy it. And so I would have men, as I
That's
grew
true.
older and date, and they'd be like, well, so do you ever think about doing it again? I'm like, but I'm with you, so why is that even a question? If that's what I wanted to
Fear.
do, then
Yep.
that's what I do. Like, so so I would begin to think like, maybe you're just in fear that I'm going to leave you, but I know that being with the same sex is wrong for me. Now, whatever you guys
Right.
believe out there in social media world who watch this video, that's your own. Don't come for me, because I have time. Um,
No, you
so
don't. You busy. You're real busy.
so I got time. And that's just my personal, my personal belief in what I believe in. And so I would get it all the time. It'd be like, so are you really that insecure that a woman can pull me from me? So we may need to be together, because clearly you're mentally not strong enough to deal with what I had being passed
Happened. Yeah.
on.
Yeah.
And so you're
It
trying to
wasn't
make
even
it a karma
freely.
issue.
Yeah, that wasn't even freely. And I think that would scare him too. Because I was like, this is not something I asked for. This was, like, hey, this is what I want you to do. So I feel like it's different when it's something that it was open to and I was open to it, but I wasn't open to it. I was introduced to something that I didn't even want to be introduced to. And now I got what you said, that up and down thing, do yes, no, yes, no. I wouldn't have had this yes, no if it never happened to me.
You wouldn't have the option. I'm a true
Mm-mm.
believer that we were brought into this world with a clean slate, and everything that we
Yep.
do in life is a learned behavior. That's what I believe. So
I believe that too.
when I was introduced to fondling with a female, it was like, okay, so I've been taught that this is wrong. Men and women reproduce, so there's no how that me and another woman can reproduce, so it can't be right. But on the low, then I was like, but I like it.
It feels good. I'm not gonna sit here and front with you. I'm with you too.
So,
I'm not your
I
friend.
think
Tell the
that
whole
it's
truth.
so I think that it's so unfair, when you don't even have the option of doing that. So, you said that you were in unhealthy relationships, and then it kind of, made you feel some type of way. So let's talk about, so were you ever, I have friends, and I
Mm-hmm.
categorize us as three different people. I have friends who have been in these situations where they were almost raped or molested, and I have
Mm-hmm.
one who's just totally reserved. It's just her and her husband. It's just them. Then I have this one who is just out there. She down for whatever, however. She's just, that's my whatever chick. And then I have another person who tries to do whatever, but she really into herself, but she toggles, she's in between. And so I'm like, it's three type of people when they're introduced to these situations. There's a reserve, there's a way out there, and then there's that person in between who tries and wants to do better. So which one would you define yourself as, or define?
I was way out there. I was way, I was way out there. I just started doing whatever I want to do. I was just like, I don't care. I'm going to get what I want when I want. Some people's like, you probably had a mindset like a dude. I didn't care. I was getting it. I didn't think nothing of it. And while we're talking about, many people are like, well, that's the reason why you have herpes. That ain't it. Like, truthfully, I went years without ever having STD in my life. In my life, I ended up getting an STD from somebody I trusted, not because it was a random. I was safer with a one night stand than the one I thought I could trust the most, and I knew him majority of my life, and knew a lot about me at that. So it's just like, as many people may think that, being promiscuous, you'll end up getting an STD. That ain't always true. All it takes is one person. It don't take 4, 5 no more. That may have been the statistics back in the day. That is not the statistic today. All it takes is that boyfriend you've been with for 2, 3 months, and he don't know, or you simply don't know. It's just that simple now.
And I'm glad you said that, because I know I made a post, and we may be going off on a little tangent. I made a post just to see how often, or what people thought was amongst
that was a good post. That was real good.
I do random things. Like so let's talk about it, especially in the arena of molestation and rape, and women, again, being either promiscuous, reserved, or that in-between person. And I get a lot of conversations of women, and they're like, well, he slept with me and now he gave me AIDS, or he slept with me, now I got an STD and it's not my fault. And it's like, yes and no. Because did you ever have a conversation? Like, we so busy going out and Netflixing and chilling. We so busy want to be taken out to the 5-star restaurant. We just jump over, and because he looked like he clean, whatever the heck that looks like, we don't ask the question. So when the last
That's
time
high school thinking. That's high school thinking.
So when
we grown and folks still thinking like that.
So when last
literally.
Time, yeah, I know. So when the last time you've been tested, or when the last time, how many sexual partners have you had? We don't have those open dialogue because we don't want
an uncomfortable conversation.
Who cares?
I feel you, but I have many clients who struggle with that conversation. But I say, you're not thinking about that when you're trying to be with him, and you're not thinking about when he tell you to flip it this way, flip it that way, and do this and do that. But you don't want to ask him to keep yourself safe. And if he don't want to have a conversation, typically if he's nervous about the conversation, because he don't know. But it's all right if you don't know. Let's go find out. It ain't the end of the world. I ain't been with you for years. I just met you yesterday, so I don't know what you did yesterday. So that's okay. Let's just go ahead down here to keep us both safe. So whatever's going on, we just know. Because as soon as something pop up, everybody I'm gonna bust her. I'm gonna put her all on social media. We see the outings and people acting all ugly. And as you read the storyline, last time I checked, y'all used to love each other. So why all of a sudden it's a big issue? No, a conversation wasn't had. Now y'all mad. You can't be mad. And if you accepted him back a couple of times and he cheated or she did, you really can't be mad. Let's put that in there. Just, you can't be mad. That's the risk that comes with. And let's be honest, sex is risky, period. Everybody's telling them, let's have sex, all this stuff like that. But nobody understands the risk behind it. It ain't just children. That's not it. The STDs really rock people. Children, yeah, you see people true colors. Y'all get along, or he disappears, she disappears, one or the other. But STDs, you see the ugly of people. We see it all the time, and I'm looking like, and if y'all had a conversation, this could have been prevented. If you were completely educated, you understood that he could have had it for so long and never known. You could have had it, and you can't pinpoint where it came from. So that blame game thing, it don't work. It don't make a difference. Y'all just fussing for no reason.
So let's talk about this, and we're going to get off the molestation. I'm going to update my post, and let's move on over to how can a person know, or because I know that I know that herpes can be an asymptomatic sexually transmitted illness, and so with asymptomatic people who don't know, that means it can lie dormant within your system. You may have no outbreak for a very long time, and then all of a sudden you walking with your legs up because you're like, I itch, or why can't I go pee? And then you look down there with a mirror and you got a whole blister. And so educate the people a little bit about that, because again, on that thread that I made a couple weeks ago, people were
saying they didn't know.
It baffles me that you don't know what's the common STD or here. Everybody wants to claim chlamydia and gonorrhea. Those are things that you're going to know that you got when you got a little discharge.
That's not true. That's not true.
But
they silent.
They're silent. But I'm just sure those will come out before you'll find out that you have herpes. Okay, well, educate me. Well, go ahead, break it down.
That's what a lot of people think, because at the end of the day, if you ever did a little bit more education on gonorrhea, they can go unnoticed, especially for women. They got the same symptoms that a yeast infection and a bacterial vaginosis. We don't think nothing about it. They're like, girl, I know what to do. Let me go down here and get this medicine and I'm going to be good. Because we don't want to go to the doctor every time for bacteria or, a yeast infection. So many ladies will go into the doctor thinking, okay, it's a yeast infection or bacterial vaginosis, and don't know that gonorrhea, chlamydia is right behind it. Most people don't know those come in pairs. They come in pairs. Even herpes, it'll come in a pair where you'll go in and say you got bacterial vaginosis, a yeast infection, and you have herpes, and you got chlamydia, and you got gonorrhea. Most people don't know it. It's a cover-up for a lot of people. So you'll go in, your doctor give you a medicine, so you think you're good, and you're like, it ain't healing, though. This ain't normal. Like, why is it not healing? It should have been gone within a week or so, and it's still there, and go back, and the doctor was like, okay, let me test you for something. If I think it's what I think it is, and they're not going to tell you, some doctors won't say, if I think it is, I'll call you. And end up calling back and say, oh, you have gonorrhea, chlamydia, or whatever. Because they can get covered up with things. For men, most men don't have no clue. Most men are asymptomatic for a lot of stuff. They have no clue what be going on, because everybody don't have symptoms. And you would think automatically, it's people who have never had a symptom. Or they had a symptom, but it was so mild that you didn't think none of it. It was like, oh, I had a little itch, and then it went away after a day. No biggie. Most people think you'll notice right away. Sometimes you just won't. And also about the herpes with asymptomatic, the virus is there, and you can shed and you can pass the virus. You just don't see the outbreak. You don't see it. So it's coming to the surface, but you have no clue at all. And that's scary for many people, because it's like, well, how am I going to protect my partner and I can't see it? The main thing you can do is simply taking antivirals to reduce that and using protection. Now, if you're in a relationship, y'all agree to not using condoms, then your partner just have to accept the risk that is there. And I tell people it's all about just letting the person know the risk that is there. Just because you have sex with somebody who have herpes is not guaranteed that you're going to get it either. Because asymptomatic, the virus come and go. Even if you have physical outbreaks, it comes and goes. So if you're not having an outbreak, you won't pass the virus.
So that is true. So if you're not actively having an outbreak and that being blisters and sores and the discomfort, you can't pass it.
Nope. And I think some people get confused because they were like, well, I don't have this, but then they'll talk about the shedding piece, and the virus, basically when it sheds, it comes to the surface. Yes, I know most people always want to know that. So it'll come to the surface and it's active, but you don't know it's there. You're not aware. So you remember when you do a little bit, huh?
So how do you know if you're shedding?
You don't. That's the sucky part. See, that's the thing that scares people the most. It's not the outbreaks, because if you have an outbreak, okay, if I have any of these symptoms, I'm not going to do nothing no way. That's just common. Most people will not do that anyway. But when that shedding piece come up, it's just like, how can I control what I don't see? Well, you really can't control what you can't see. What you do is disclose to your partner, tell your partner what's going on, and let your partner choose if they want to take this risk. Do you shed every day? Yes or no? How long it lasts, who knows? That's the scary part to it. That's what everybody gets scared about, because it's like, I don't know how to control what I don't see. And I'm this type of person, and some people may not agree. Don't worry about what you can't control. Take the antivirals, do whatever you're going to do pertaining to it, and leave it at that. Because this is the part that your partner has to take up. Just like you got a part, control your outbursts, your partner got to accept the shedding piece, which theirs is just a little bit more sporadic and don't quite know when it's going to happen. Yeah, I know. That's the part that everybody kind of gets shaky on. And I tell people, I say, you can't worry about it because you can't do nothing about it. It's not like you can know for sure. The only one time, well, 2 times that you have an outbreak is before an before outbreak, and I tell ladies, now if they have it before their menstrual, then they know, okay, every time my menstrual come on, I always have an outbreak. So that helps them to say, okay, I'm not going to have sex before my menstrual, because at the end of the day, I know that I tend to have an outbreak, as soon as my menstrual comes. So you're shedding. Who knows if it's that day, the day before, 2 days before, 2 hours before, minutes before, we don't know. But that's a way for them to protect their partner in that point. And then after any outbreak, if that's, just don't have sex within a week after your outbreak, because you shed in that time period too. But other than that, you shedding, and who knows when. So even if, just say, if I'm in the bed with my husband, whatever, we want to have sex or whatever, and I don't know if I'm shedding, but I shedded 30 minutes ago before we did something. Now he ain't at a risk, because clearly I'm not having an outbreak now. So now he won't even get it. I'm speaking my new husband to existence.
It sounds like, is you married? Is you not? So
no, I am gonna be.
Oh, okay. So how frequent are out give us some statistics when it comes to herpes.
Okay, so outbreaks, it varies person to person. This is not a virus that's very much paper. Like gonorrhea, it's like this. HIV is this. This virus don't work like that. It varies person to person. So for me, I may have 3 or 4 outbreaks in a year. Somebody else may have outbreaks month after month after month after month. But it all determined off of, do you know your triggers? And what I mean by triggers is, do stress cause you to have outbreaks? Is your diet causing you to have outbreaks? Is your lack of sleep? Drinking alcohol, friction from sex, different things like that. What is causing you to have outbreaks? So this virus you can manage if you know what's causing you to have them in the first place. So I always tell all my clients, like, make sure I say, I don't care what medicine you take. I don't care if you do the natural route. I don't care if you take antiviral. It don't make a difference. What you need to know is what's causing your outbreaks. Because when you learn that part and you work together with the antivirals or the natural route, then now you got a better chance of reducing your outbreaks. And when you reduce your outbreak, you reduce your
how many people have outbreaks? Like, how many people? Like, I know 1 in 3 women will be sexually assaulted before the age of 18, and every 9 seconds, some person is a product of some type of domestic violence. What are some statistics behind herpes?
1 out of 6 people. You'll see some people say 1 out of 6. You'll have some people who say 1. So CDC say 1 out of 6. American Sexual Association say 1 out of 5 people have herpes. Genital herpes, okay? They're not considering oral herpes as herpes. I want to tell y'all something. If you get cold sores or fistula business, you have herpes, and you have the chance of giving your partner genital herpes. And a lot of people don't know that. Well, I get fever blisters. I've been getting them since I was a child. Okay, you contracted it from somebody. It ain't just something you wake up and you have it in your sleep. No, it don't work like that. It don't. So my whole thing, somebody kissed you as a child, and I like to talk about this because a lot of people get real funky when you tell them they have herpes, because they thinking it's based off a sexual. It's not always sexual. A simple kiss. That's all it takes. We all got that auntie or that uncle who always kissing on you. It don't matter. Every time you go to the family function, they all in your face. You're like, stop, like type thing. So it could simply from a kiss, and also from sharing drinks. Okay, and let me break this down, because a lot of people like start freaking out. My whole thing is, this person has to have an outbreak at this given moment. Okay, and what I mean by outbreak, you can see it on their mouth. You got your people who put their whole mouth in their drink. That. So when if you have that fluid goes into the drink, it can hold it. It can hold the virus. The thing about it is it gonna hold it long? No. But if somebody drink right after you don't know you have herpes. They drink right after you, boom, they got a chance of getting it. Is it high? No, it's low. But that chance is still there. And also, if somebody just say kissing, they don't have an outbreak on their mouth, but they have it inside their mouth. People get sores in their mouth all the time. They're like, oh, I just bit this out of my mouth, things like that. Your saliva can hold the fluid of the virus in your mouth. So you kissing another person, they take in your saliva, they got a chances of getting it as well, especially if you got any cuts or anything in your mouth. So it's not the drink. It's just the fact of the virus. You're having an outbreak at the time, and you get into that fluid or secretion, come in contact with that. So I don't really like to say the drink is the fluid or secretion. That's where the problem comes in. And I like to share that because people just be freaking out. But I said, it ain't the drink sharing, y'all. It's if this person is having an outbreak. And the sad part, half of the people don't know that. So that's what opens the door. And 80% of people have no clue they have herpes in the world. They have no clue. So that's the big scare.
I'm trying to type in these statistics. 80% of people don't.
Yes, fever blisters is a form of herpes. Yes, fever blisters, cold sores, they are
Herpes
herpes.
simplex 1, right? And then there's herpes simplex 2 of the genitals.
Yep. But think about it is,
I know a little something,
girl. But the thing about it is, type 1 is the main cause for genital herpes. So when we hear genital herpes, we're not talking about just type 2. We're talking about just genital herpes. Type 1 and type 2 can be oral or genital. A lot of people don't know that, but it can be both. If I perform oral sex on somebody and he has type 2, then I have the chance of getting type 2 in my mouth. It doesn't really matter. It can be in any location. For so long, it used to be, type 1 is this, type 2 is this, but as we know, people are performing oral sex without protection. That's the main thing that nobody uses protection for.
Just been speaking in the microphone like it ain't gonna sit there.
But I mean, it's true. Most people don't think about it. So I was telling some of my clients that it's very important now to, number one, ask questions. Like, let's have a real conversation before we even touching each other, kissing each other. And you got those people who want to go in for a kiss. I don't know you. Hold up, wait. I'm gonna mush you. Back up. Let's ask some real questions first. And that's not to make a person feel any type of way. But my whole thing is, most people don't know you can get gonorrhea, chlamydia, HIV, all from kissing. Like,
Google
all of it.
Google the pictures. All it take is you to Google one picture and somebody got gonorrhea right here in the eye and a whole eye green.
I'm telling you, and that's what people are, they not understanding that. And you know what? I will really put on the fact of, I could say in the South, I'll speak about the South. The sexual education in the South don't exist. It don't exist. We're abstinent. Beltline is abstinent. So when they're talking about abstinent, all they're really doing is telling them don't have sex. They're not educating them. And I feel like that's hurting us all. It's just that we're not educating, period. Just because you're not having sex don't mean you shouldn't get educated.
First of all, our kids are having oral sex before they have sex because they believe that oral sex isn't sex. Let's start off there. Oh, I'm just
tell the whole truth.
I'm not having sex. I just gave him head. Okay, so there is oral before the sex. So that means that hole that it went in is just become sex.
Yep.
So therefore, let's not be uneducated. I mean, with NCOL, we try to educate our children all the time. Like, let's take precautions. First, let's have that conversation with our children. Second of all, you can't be oblivious that your child may not be out here busting it wide open. So why not be a safe place for them to come and talk to? I mean, if kids are doing things because they're uneducated and or they're seeking attention, if you're not having this talk with them and you're allowing YouTube and social media and TikTok to raise your children, you can't be upset if they then come to you at an early age educating you more, and you sitting here thinking like, oh, when'd you learn that? On TikTok, on YouTube.
I feel like we gotta, sadly to say, I'm meeting a lot of parents who are just scared to have the conversation with their kids. What's your scared? I feel like the fear is because they're not fully educated either.
Or they, and okay, I'll give you that, but I also say this because you don't want to believe that it can happen to your child. I didn't want to believe that one of my residents was ever going to pull a gun on me because I'm that girl where, hey, I'm Victoria, like, I'm the one who's going to help you get your place. I'm the one who's going to help you, be better in life and get stable housing. And then you pull your gun on me. Or I was never the person who thought that when I was smoking that somebody was going to lace my blunt, and now I'm sitting here hallucinating. These things happen.
We live in a world we think nothing gonna happen to us. That's our problem. That's everybody.
Like, you are not untouchable. Okay, so let's talk about this. You're not untouchable and you're not unstoppable. So therefore, these things can happen, and they'll happen to you quicker because you don't know that they're happening. So then you look back and was like, oh, wait a doggone minute, did this fool really do X, Y, Z, P, Q? Yes. So we have to.
And when you're more aware, when you're more educated, you're more aware. So when you seen that person coming to there and you like, he acting funny, you would have had a feeling like, hold up, something ain't right. Or if you seen somebody, like if you ever was a smoker, which I was once before, it was like, don't let them bring a blunt to the roll that in front of me, bro. We don't play them games.
or you think like, okay, so clearly I trust him. I didn't smoke with him before, but you just never know what he doing and what he going through. He may be saying, forget life. And now you hit this and now you like, but wait a minute, my whole body over there, but I'm here. So, I mean.
And he looking at you like you crazy, like you good? No, I'm not good.
But yeah, so Korea asks, you're so right, we need to do better education. At what age would you recommend to start to talk of sex or oral and or other diseases?
I started talking to my son at 8. Okay? And this is based off maturity for your child too. Don't be talking and your child is still like oblivious. Like, leave him alone. Like, let him be a baby, okay? But if your child, for my son, he's going to a school where the kids are just way more advanced than him. He really act like an 8-year-old, so when he comes home and he's telling me all this stuff that's going on, I was like, hold on, wait a minute. Hold on. He said, what? They talking about they having, she got 2 boyfriends. What? 2 boyfriends? What is that? Okay, we got to have some conversation. And at that, I was learning that my son was having wet dreams. So I was like, it's time to really have questions. He needs to understand what's going on with his body. And I'm thinking like 8, but this thing, I'm not a boy, so I don't know when those things happen.
Mm-hmm.
As a girl, now girls are having periods at 8. Their menstrual cycle so young. So when I found out, I think I was like 13, so it was a little different. So he came to me talking about something. He was like, Mom, it's getting real hard. I was like, yeah, that's what it do. Like I said, it feels good. Leave it alone. At that moment. Because he was like, why? I said, well, when it feels good, the blood go to it. When it don't feel good, it goes down. I try to put it in the lamest terms I can put it. And then he started having all these dreams about him having sex with girls. It was crazy. But my whole thing, he's seen some stuff on TV. So it opened a whole nother door because watching TV, and we got to be honest, like cartoons are not cartoons. Nothing is just what it looks like. When we start watching, you like, what did they say? What? They said, huh? Especially Disney Channel, they be slobbing each other down. You're like, what y'all doing? So I just feel like it all depends on conversation that you have with your children. So it's very important to every day come home and ask your child, how was your day? What happened? Tell me some juice. I'd be like, so what happened? What they do? And I'd be like, letting him gossip. Go for it. Tell me everything. And he was like, Mom, I felt. I'm like, tell me. I'm not going to get mad. Because your kid's going to think they're going to get in trouble. But I kept telling my son, I'm not going to get mad. Even though I'd be like, Mama, guess what your grandson said? And we'll laugh about it. But I created that relationship.
Right. And it's all about wanting to create that relationship, because I'm like, lady is at the age where she, I may not be her best friend right now. I'm always threatening to whoop her, and I'm always threatening to put her on punishment. But she has her godmom, which I love to death, and she's a great sounding board for her. And so I'm grateful that I have this little small, community of people who are helping me to raise her, that I've entrusted them with her life. And yeah, like some of the stuff that she be telling her she's like, hey, don't you whoop her. And I be like, oh Lord. That's why my hair getting shorter and shorter by the day, because it's like, okay, but I have to understand at her age some of the things that I was going through. By her age, she'll be 9 in July. By her age, I'd already been molested. I had already, I was already developed. I developed at a young age, and so there were all these other thoughts, and then I was being bullied, and so for her, she's not being bullied, but she's getting the attention. I'm like, Lord Jesus.
Yeah.
What my little boy say? What
she's 32, so she getting that.
I'm gonna beat him up. Like I go to a school and I threaten the kids, but I try to let my presence. I let my presence be known.
You don't want to threaten your kids. Stop.
Pull up if you want to. No, but
I understand what you mean. I went and said some things to our kid, and it not even in a nasty way. I was just like, we don't do that. I said, next time I say something, I'm gonna have to tell your mama, because I said I know your mama don't raise you that way. So I know you're not going to a kid and trying to jack them up, but you giving the parent talk like, that ain't right. You don't do that.
Right, and so this past weekend was a whole dance situation, and how she tried to bring to me that she got asked, but she told everybody else. She said somebody got asked to the dance, and then she was like, well, such and such is nasty. I'm like, why is she nasty? Because she showed them, her bra, and she was like, oh, well, then I got asked to the dance too. So she knew that was going to be a trigger for me. So I said, oh, so what you say? And she was like, I didn't say anything. And I was like, okay. But later on, as we were walking through the store, she she goes, so actually there were two boys who asked me. I was like, oh yeah. And she was like, so I'm holding her close, like, Lord, don't let her say anything crazy. She was like, it was two boys. And one of the boys, he gets all C's, and the other boy gets all A's. And she was like, so if I were to go with someone, it would be the boy who has all A's, because he care about himself in his education. So he's applying himself more. I said, so I'm not your best friend right now, but at least I know the conversations that I've had in the past, you're listening to. And so I believe that we should start planting those seeds in our children's head. Let's clarify, she ain't go nobody. I dropped her off, and then I stayed there for a little while and embarrassed her to make sure everybody know that I'm crazy.
Mama. Mama.
I care. The principal knows, the administrator knows, the teachers know. They know I'm a whole fool, but it's because I care, and I know what happens when a parent is not present. So I need for my presence to be her present in her life every day. And Absolutely. So she just it's very stressful, and it can be very agonizing, because we don't want to think that we have to have these conversations so early on. But the truth of the matter is, it's happening more and more and more.
Earlier, and more. Just imagine if our parents had said something super early, we would have ran and said, da-da-da-da-da-da-da.
Absolutely. And so, when I found out that I was molested, I didn't tell anybody, because again, this was my best family member. Like,
right. It's always the one you love. It's the one that you cling to.
Right. And I mean, like, and then for a very long time, I suppressed those feelings, because I was like, no, they couldn't have done this to me when I was little. I was like, I read so much. I made this whole fairy tale up, but it was always their touch that made my insides do something. So I was like, no, I couldn't be just suppressing these feelings. Like, it had to happen. And then through much therapy, it came out. But what I also found out, going back to generational curses, that it happened to her. And I'll never forget that when she tried to tell my grandmother, because I was there asleep, said it couldn't have happened because it shouldn't have took you to get drunk to come and tell me. So as I got older, I let that replay in my mind, because I felt like, well, if Granny did this to her, then clearly my mother is going to do this to me. But I should have. My mama's a whole red firecracker. She ain't about that life. Like, she hurt whoever, whenever, however. But I didn't also want that tear in our family, because it's like, well, this is still family, and we got to protect family. It wasn't until I got older that I realized, like, this isn't love. This isn't what family's supposed to do. And even when it came time for my cycle, I felt the same way, because the only talk my mother had with me, and I love her, though, she said, well, now you can get pregnant. And I'm thinking, like, but how? I'm 10 years
still didn't understand that piece.
I'm 10 years old. We just had the health conversation. And I'm just like, my body isn't doing what the camera, what the video said. And it took an older white redhead lady. I'll never forget this lady. She was like, your mother doesn't think that you're going to get pregnant. She just doesn't want her little girl to grow up. And so she didn't know the right words to say. But as life goes on, just like the video we watched yesterday, you're just maturing. So whenever you want to lay down, if your tummy starts to hurt, she was so sweet, you can lay down.
She helped. Oh, thank God.
She was like, you can lay down. She was like, don't worry about getting pregnant, Victoria. You're not getting pregnant. I'll never forget because it happened, and I had these pads in my book bag. And so I told her, come, this is when teachers can go with you to the bathroom. I was like, come with me, come to the bathroom. I have these things, and I don't know what I'm supposed to do with them. And that's when she just kind of told me, and she guided me through, and I love that little lady to death. But it was always those little conversations. And sometimes we have to put those special places or those relationships in our kids' lives, especially when we don't know how to have them ourselves. And so now that this is beginning to happen with Lady, I'm like, I'm trying to have these conversations and explain to her what's really going on. And it's awkward, because it's like, well, what do you say? But I definitely think, if I didn't hear anything within your conversation, is we have to have the talk early, and we can't be afraid.
Because I feel like none of that would have happened to us. Let's think about the age and look at our kids. It's right here. And if we don't talk now, things can happen, and they'll take it all the way into their adults, until they, all the way up. Even though we are open, they can still hold it, being scared to tell. But once again, don't want to get nobody in trouble, type thing. So, you're doing the right thing. I just try to have the open door, and I tell my son, no, don't do that, and no, don't. And at that, I'm raising a boy, so I try to tell him a no mean a no. I don't care if it's with your brother. No, no, instant stop. So it's different on that end because I'm trying to teach him how to respect boundaries. If somebody tell you no with me, anybody, it don't matter. I'm just trying to keep it a habit that when a girl tell you no, and I don't even want to tell him that when anybody tell you no, just stop.
Or when you tell someone no, because it goes vice versa.
I tell him that too.
If they, if it's something happening to them, they have the right to say no. And if you say no and they don't stop, you have the right then to tell someone else. I try to tell children, you try to handle on your own. When they don't handle it and they keep on doing it, you go to the teacher. You tell your teacher or whomever the next adult is that this is what happened. When they don't do it, bring it on home to me. I'm gonna handle it.
Because the thing about it is, like, my son had some issues dealing with bullying and stuff like that at school, and my son struggled with, I don't want to tell anybody, type things. So I was like, look, do you want me to handle it, or do you want to handle it? And I gave him the option. Literally, he said, let me handle it, Mom. I said, oh. If it get bad, I'm coming. And I'm going to act like a plum fool, But he ended up handling it when he really started standing up for himself. But I had to have a real conversation with him. And my son had he cried so hard on me. Because I told him, I said, you know what? You are not nice. And he was like, oh. I said, you're not. I don't want a nice person. Nice people get ran over. Be kind. You stand your ground. Stop trying to be nice and stop trying to be a people pleaser. It's not getting you nowhere. I said, they don't like you, bro. They don't like you. I mean, my baby bawled. But I had to have this conversation to break them down for a little bit for him to understand. I need you to see if that's your friend, they won't treat you like that. They won't be hitting on you. They won't be pushing on you. They won't, picking on you. That is not what real friends do. And I said, look at my friends. Do my friends treat me like that? He said, no. I said, then that tells you something. It's not right. My baby cried for a good 30 minutes. And I had to console him, but I had to give him the reality that, you don't want to be a nice person. You want to be a kind person, somebody who is just standing their ground, loving on people, giving them respect they deserve, but you also demand it. No, you're not just going to do anything to me. That bullying thing is unreal these days.
We're coming up on the hour mark here in the confessional room, and we have Miss Belize for the people who are just joining. She is a survivor of molestation and promiscuity. I think that's a word. She is also a great advocate for STDs, especially when it comes to herpes. She is, that is her testimony, that is her story, that is her advocacy, that is her purpose, that is all that good stuff wrapped in a burrito bread or pita bread, whichever. And so on Belize right now, what would you leave the people with as it pertains to molestation and as it pertains to herpes? What would you leave the people with so they can take that knowledge with them?
Deal with it. Like, literally, deal with it. And stop acting like it didn't exist. And that's from both sides of the fence. A lot of us thinking acceptance is a bad thing. You got to accept what really happened. Acceptance is not bad. It's not saying it was wrong, wasn't wrong. You're not condoning it, saying that they were right. It's none of that. But you have to get to a place to say, okay, it really did happen. Now what do I do? And from that point, you go get help. That's therapy, that's coaching, that's whatever you feel like is necessary to kind of get those emotions out. But until you get there, you're in denial and you're not going nowhere. You're going to sit around and go in circles and circles and circles to a point where you just feel hopeless. And that's what happens when you're not in an acceptance phase. You have to accept whatever, and it's not even this bigger than that, whatever comes in life, because at the end of the day, it ain't going to change. Now you just got to move forward. How you going to move forward, move through the emotions, how to cope through it, because stuff just don't go away. You got to learn to cope through it as well. Deal with triggers.
So give us some a little piece of education again as it pertains to herpes. How often does, what are statistics, where can people get treatment, and how can they connect with you?
All right. So my whole thing is, if you see something, go get it checked. I'm just not even going to lie to you. I don't care if it's a pimple. I don't care if it's anything, because herpes don't look like what we see on Google. That is not every day. If y'all can get into my inbox, y'all be like, oh, I didn't think it looked like that. So my whole thing is, make sure if you see something, you don't feel comfortable with it, go to the doctor and check, okay? And be an advocate for yourself. Don't let your doctor tell you, no, I don't think, no. Tell them to swab it, take some blood, and test me for everything, and say what everything is. Gonorrhea, chlamydia, HIV, herpes, hep C, syphilis. Tell them. Because if you don't, you'll be shocked that you're not being tested, which most people don't know. Herpes, they don't test for it. You have to ask for it. And then how to reach out to me is right here on Facebook. And it's Belize Spivey. You can hit up my DMs if you have any questions.
So type in your information at the bottom, and Kalia says you got to be straight up with your children. Yes, because what we fail to realize is TikTok, YouTube, Snapchat. I read somewhere where Snapchat is a social media platform right now that children are being bullied on. Why? Because that Snapchat, it erases. I think I had a song.
24 hours. It ain't even 24 hours. It's a couple of minutes. That thing is gone.
Rap for you guys. I was going to rap for you guys and say, because that Snapchat disappeared. I think the game said that in one of his songs. You know, I'm super lame. So actually type in your website so I can try and pin it, because I don't know how to, oh, here you go, Belize. Yeah, I pinned your name, but I want a website so that people can connect with you if they think that they might have herpes, if they, just felt a connection with you and wanted to connect with you on social media, period. But I definitely going back to being straight up with.
I'll give them my email. I'm updating this website.
Okay.
It's about to be lit. So they can always email me or DM me, best believe. I'll answer you, because at the end of the day, most of us are dealing with it in silence. We don't want to talk about it. It's people who've been living it for years, and it's a silent epidemic. It's people who are struggling. You see these women and you see these men like, why you ain't with nobody? They be like, man, I just can't find nobody. That ain't the truth. Listen to me. That's not the truth. It's something that happened in their lives that they're just terrified, or they're just scared to tell. So don't always believe it. I can't find nobody. It's too many good people out here talking about you can't find nobody.
Well, I can't find nobody, so.
What happened to you? That's a whole nother conversation.
Yes, bring it on down.
I love you.
Fill it back up. But no.
I got you.
Hey, Yolanda. Hey, Yan. I'm not going to, Yolanda.
You ain't trying to butcher her.
I ain't trying to do that. But we were just in here talking, getting ready to wrap up the confession room tonight with Miss Belize. She talked about how she was molested at the age of 10 by a good friend of hers, and then as well prior to that by a male relative, and how she felt this fear of her family not believing her, and as she got older, how her grandmother told her that her grandfather had did this to her aunt, who actually ended up taking her life because of it. She also shared with us some phenomenal statistics about herpes and how people are living with it every day and not knowing it, how herpes simplex 1, that being the cold sore on your mouth, is actually herpes that can be transmitted or transferred to a sexual partner in the oral area. She told us, I'm trying to get my school on, trying to remember because I got a quiz. How
you're doing good.
1 in 6 people from the CDC are living with herpes at this time. Knowing what your triggers in your outbreaks are, what your triggers are that can cause an outbreak. She gave us some knowledge on that. So if you're going to catch the replay, let us know that you're catching the replay. We've also pinned her email address because she's redoing her website right now. And I'm just so grateful and thankful for people who are even willing and able to get on these lives and share their testimonies in hopes of helping someone else, you guys, because you just don't understand. We're all living with something. We're all dealing with something. But when we can actually get up and share our testimony with other people, it is then that we help heal other people. So you guys, I'm so thankful and grateful once again that you all decided to join us in the confessional room with Miss Belize Spivey of Atlanta, Georgia. Where is your next stop with your tour?
My next tour, well, I'm having a meetup in Myrtle Beach on March 31st. So if anybody's in South Carolina, you want to come, that's a great opportunity. I'm only allowing 11 people to come. You're going to get a book and a swag bag. So we're going to get to spend some time together. But for my tour, I'm going to Durham, North Carolina, April 26th and 27th. So I'm excited.
Yes, I'm super grateful for even being able to meet you and for you being so transparent, because I believe that once we get the education and tools that we need, we'll become greater people for society, and the generation will have even more great people to look up to, and it'll be amazing, and we won't have this much garbage going on in the world if we all just lived and owned up to our own insecurities. We'll be better people for the world. But hey, I'm just one little lady trying to change the whole world, one person at a time, one interview at a time. I can only be me. Great topics and so important. All right. So any other last words, Miss Belize?
No, thank you. I appreciate what you're doing. I feel like you're making a huge difference. Keep doing what you're doing. It's gonna make a big difference. Big, big,
Well,
big, big difference.
thank you so much, love. And you guys, I will be back here on Monday at 8 p.m. Central Standard Time.
Monday.
I'm going to get this whole thing down when it comes to being able to come on live right at 8 o'clock without any technical difficulties. But until next time, you guys, you just keep rocking with us. We're trying.
Thank you.
Ain't nobody mad but the devil. All right, you guys, until next time.
Bye, girl.
See you next Monday at 8 p.m. Central Standard Time here in the confessional room.